Welcome to the Round 1 recap of the Star Wars Squadrons Creator Clash Tournament. Before we get into the highlights and the results, let's quickly touch on the rules for those of you who are unfamiliar with how the tournament works. There are 16 teams, each captained by a content creator from within the community, and it's your average 16-team knockout tournament. Due to the fact that there are no private matches, each team will play 3 games of regular ranked fleet battles, and their stats will be entered after each game, giving them a score for that specific match through our complex scoring system. After each team plays their 3 matches, we compared their scores on a game-by-game basis, and from there we can determine who wins each matchup. On screen you can see the entire bracket for Round 1. And by the end of this recap, you'll know exactly who is on to Round 2 of the tournament. Getting straight into the first matchup, we had Arcross, one of the hosts of the tournament, up against Bombastic and his notorious Bomb Squadron. Game 1 for Team Arcross saw them matched up against an incredibly strong team, making it super tough to bring home the win, and they unfortunately ended up taking a significant loss. Game 1 for Bomb Squadron, on the other hand, was a dominant victory against their opponents, dealing a ton of capital ship damage.
How good is it playing with this bomber?
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, it's done.
Oh, nice.
Oh, way! There you go. First game.
The total scores for Game 1 saw Team Arcross with a score of 20, while Bombastic brought in a huge 219 points, taking the series to 1-0. Game 2 for Arcross was a polar opposite of the first game, absolutely dominating their opponents and getting a fairly quick win for those bonus win points. Game 2 for Bombastic was a very similar result to their first game, dealing even more capital ship damage this time, improving their overall score. Despite that improvement from the Bomb Squadron though, Arcross and his team had an improvement of over 240 points, and took Game 2, taking the series 1-1. Game 3 for Arcross was another solid performance, improving with both more kills and less deaths, but they unfortunately took the loss, meaning they couldn't bring in those extra points for the win. Game 3 for Bombastic was yet again another dominant performance, and it was actually the single fastest win of the tournament so far. The total scores for the third and final game saw Bombastic take the win and move on to the next round, winning 2-1 in the series. Moving on to the next match, we had Hello Greedo versus Split Screen. Hello Greedo and the team struggled in their first game and unfortunately were unable to properly submit their scores at the end of the game. However, they did take heavy losses anyway. Split Screen and the Mark side had a resounding win in their first game, with a clinical performance from everyone involved.
Yes.
Yes.
There you go.
Good job, guys.
Split Screen comfortably took Game 1, taking the lead 1-0. Hello Greedo had another rough game in Game 2, coming up against a well-oiled machine on the opposite side, and unfortunately yet again they took some very heavy losses in Game 2. Split Screen did have a faster game in Game 2, however due to the speed of the game they were around 50 points less than Game 1.
Yeah, boys,
but it was still a comfortable enough win to take the series 2-0. Meaning they technically already won the series. Game 3 was much of the same from both sides, and Split Screen eventually took home the series 3-0 with a dominant win, moving on to Round 2. Moving on to the next series, this saw my team, UPLINK Squadron, going head-to-head with Lady Lorani, who is our wildcard participant for the tournament. In Game 1 for my UPLINK Squadron, we had a dominant victory, racking up a heap of capital ship damage and a ton of kills. Game 1 for Lorani, however, saw them do much of the same but in an even faster time than UPLINK Squadron could manage, and they took the series with an early lead of 1-0. Game 2 saw us matched up against a well-organized team, and despite putting up a great fight and still ranking in a heap of points, we unfortunately took a loss.
They got us.
Luckily for my UPLINK Squadron though, Lorani ran into some of the same troubles coming up against another great squad herself. We managed to prevail in Game 2, tying the series at 1-1. In Game 3 we came up against Rogue 181st, one of the other competitors in the tournament.
I got Rogue.
And they gave us a run for our money, showing that all those years of piloting have definitely paid off. Lorani came up against another tough team in Game 3 as well, however, and similar to the first game, it was incredibly hard to earn points with how dominant the other team were. Despite some very tough matchups on both sides, my UPLINK Squadron came out the victors 2-1, and we'll move on to Round 2. Moving on to the next matchup, this one saw the Zanman himself, ZANNY, up against one of the other tournament hosts in Sammy Boy. ZANNY came out in Game 1 and matched up against a rather strong team, holding their own for a while before eventually taking the loss. Sammy Boy and the Sammy Squadron came out in Game 1, and despite not giving up great numbers across the board, they played as a team and got a quick win. Not giving them the greatest score, but it was enough to take Game 1 in the series. In Game 2, ZANNY matched up against a very evenly matched team, and this one came down to the wire.
I got him off your back!
Despite losing, they scored extremely well because of how they fought until the end. The Sammy Squadron came up against a very strong team in Game 2, somehow securing a second win. However, despite that win, they still lost the game to ZANNY by a very close 4-point margin, taking the series 1-1. In Game 3, ZANNY and his team had some struggles and ended up losing to another well-organized team. The Sammy Squadron came out of Game 3 with another win, taking the total to 3 out of 3 for the day.
Nice. JJ boys. 3 from 3.
They scored enough to win Game 3, winning the series 2-1, moving on to the second round. Moving on to the next matchup, we saw the two favorites of the entire tournament going head-to-head already, those being Rogue Wolf and his Rogue 181st Squadron, and Stars Explained and the notorious Stash Squadron. Rogue Wolf came out in Game 1 with an absolutely dominant performance, scoring the highest score to date at the time of playing.
That's it. That's it. Good work.
Stash Daddy standing by.
Star Wars Explained came out in Game 1 and almost matched that, just failing short by 6 points in total, leaving Rogue Squadron in the lead at 1-0. Rogue Wolf again came out in Game 2 with another dominant performance, much of the same as the previous match, putting on an absolute clinic with his team. Once again, though, Star Wars Explained and the Stash Squadron came out and fought valiantly, with only their death count getting in the way of a win, leaving Rogue Wolf to a 2-0 lead, taking the series already. Rogue Wolf came out in Game 3 and, as you would expect by now, had another absolutely dominant match, outscoring their first game of the round. Stash Squadron wanted to go down fighting, however, and they came out and stole Game 3. This entire series in terms of average score came down to 7-7-2 to 7-7-0, so there was only a 2-point difference between the teams over the course of 3 games. An amazing performance by both teams, and a shame that they had to match up so early in the tournament. Moving on, the next matchup was Lorestar versus Battlefront FR. Lorestar and the Chimera Squadron came out in Game 1 with a solid victory, a great start to their 3 matches. Battlefront FR got matched up against a super well-organized team in Game 1, and unfortunately they took a heavy loss, leaving Lorestar to go 1-0 in the series. Lorestar came out hot in Game 2 with a dominant victory, taking home their second win in a row. Battlefront FR had an amazing comeback, however, with a massive 55 total kills, although it was just not enough, with Lorestar taking the series 2-0 and moving on to the second round. Game 3 for both teams was a dominating performance. Battlefront FR actually managed to take back the game, leaving the series at 2-1 overall. Next up, we had another great series, this one being Azatru versus WOLFE. Azatru and the Shio Squadron came out strong in Game 1, almost dropping 40 kills and bringing home a solid victory. Wolf Squadron also had an awesome victory themselves with almost 50 kills for their team, however it just wasn't enough to take the win, giving the game to Azatru at 1-0. Azatru and the team came out in Game 2 against a very strong and very well organized team, and despite dealing 130,000 capital ship damage, they unfortunately couldn't get the win. Wolf Squadron did manage to get a win, however, with another nearly 50-kill game, giving them the win in Game 2 and tying the series at 1-1. In Game 3, Azatru had another clinical performance, dropping solid numbers all across the board and bringing home a win, making it 2 out of 3 for the day.
Yes, let's go! Let's go, team.
Wolf Squadron did exactly the same. However, theirs was their third win from 3 matches.
We're killing the guy behind you. We killed both of them.
Unfortunately for them, though, they were just 5 points shy of a victory in Game 3, and Azatru took the series 2-1, meaning he moves on to Round 2. Now in the final matchup for Round 1, this saw a battle of the Aussies, the Twisted Jedi versus the Aussie Jedi. Team Twisted showed up in Game 1, not actually bringing home the win, but dropping over 50 kills and 125,000 capital ship damage. The Aussie Jedi and his team struggled in Game 1, taking heavy losses and unfortunately ending in minus points, giving the game to Team Twisted at 1-0. To back it up, Twisted came out in Game 2 with their first win, dropping 66 kills, 182,000 capital ship damage, and a total score that was at the time the highest so far in the tournament. Aussie came back in Game 2 with a much stronger performance, not getting the win but amassing almost 200 points total. However, with Team Twisted's dominant performance, they took the series 2-0, locking in a place in round 2. Game 3 came out quite the opposite, with Team Twisted scoring only 2 points and Aussie actually breaking Team Twisted's score record to take Game 3, leaving the series at 2-1. This battle of the Aussies resulted in 2 of the highest scoring games so far in the tournament. However, only one can move on. You can now see an updated bracket on screen with each of the matchups that will be taking place in round 2. Starting on the 5th of November, the same day this recap goes live. Split Screen will face Bombastic, my UPLINK squadron will face against the Sammy squadron, Rogue Wolf will take on Lore Star, and Azatru will be facing off against the Twisted Jedi. With the winner of each series moving on to the semifinals, only one win away from securing themselves a spot in the finals. To stay up to date with the tournament, follow us on Twitter, @StarWarsLegions. There will be a link down in the description, and be sure to subscribe to the channel, as the round 2 highlights will be up in roughly 48 hours from now. Prepare your starfighters, pilots, and may the Force be with you.